This is a special presentation from the Brighton Central School District Board of Education.
Good evening. My name is Ellie Rosenblum, and I am pleased to welcome you to the PTSA Meet the Candidates Night. This year, there are 4 candidates running for 3 open seats on the Board of Education: Laurence Davis, Cindy Sobieraj, Marvin Sachs, and Julene Gilbert. Each candidate will have up to 3 minutes for an introduction and an opening statement. Following the opening statements, we will take questions from our audience here in the boardroom, and information is right over there on the table. If you'd like to fill out a card, we will be taking questions from the floor. And we will also be taking questions from viewers at home. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. At the conclusion of our event, each candidate will have an opportunity to provide closing statements. If you'd like to phone in a question, the number to call is 585-242-5200 at extension 5096. You will see this displayed on your television screen during the course of this broadcast. You can also submit questions via Twitter at Brighton Believe or through the Brighton Central School District's Facebook page. At this time, I have the pleasure of introducing tonight's moderator, Sherry Johnson, the Executive Director of the Monroe County School Boards Association. Thank you. Sherry?
Thank you, Ellie. I also want to welcome all of you to the Brighton Central School District Meet the Candidates Night, and I want to thank the Brighton PTSA for hosting this evening's event. Members of boards of education hold a unique public trust. They are elected officials. However, they serve without pay and devote hundreds of hours to their duties. This community depends on its school board to provide for the education of the community's children, to see that the property and finances of a district are properly managed, and to ensure that the many laws governing education are followed. Changes in education law and financing continue to make this a challenging time to serve on a board of education. So to our candidates, thank you for your desire to serve your community as board trustees. After opening statements, I will begin with questions. Questions will be directed to the candidates in rotating order so that each person will have the opportunity to answer first, but all candidates will answer all questions. Answers should not exceed 2 minutes, and the timekeeper, Ellie, will hold up a yellow card, meaning that 15 seconds remain, and a red card means time is up. As moderator, I have the discretion to combine similar questions, reword questions, rule out inappropriate questions before I ask them, and my decision is final. At the end of the questions, or when time is up, each candidate will be able to make a closing statement of not more than 2 minutes. And we will begin with the order that candidates appear on the ballot. So, Mr. Davis, you get to go first.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for watching on TV. I'm a K-12 graduate of the Brighton school system. My wife and I love this community. We love the geography of this community. We love the small town feel and the neighborhoods. But the reason we chose to raise our kids in this district is because of the school district. I chose to run for school board 2 terms ago because of a desire to give back and to help Brighton solve its sort of everyday problem, which is how do you go from good to great, or in many cases, great to greater? There are a number of challenges that face this school district all the time. There's an annual budget challenge. Budgeting is now a 12-month-a-year experience. But there are a number of challenges that lay ahead of us, mostly laid out in the blueprint we've developed as a team that talk to rigorous coursework and even such detail as school facilities and a number of opportunities to improve those facilities. I look forward to being able to serve on this school board for another term, serve this community, and just be involved in all we're doing to make these schools better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Sobieraj.
Thank you. My name is Cindy Sobieraj, and I'm a 14-year Brighton resident and Rochester native who grew up initially in the 19th Ward, graduating from Churchville Chi-Li. After college, I pursued my career in New York City, where I worked in the advertising, media, and entertainment industry for many years. To be closer to my parents, I returned to Rochester in 2002, choosing to buy a home in Brighton largely because of the schools. As a single adoptive parent by choice of 2 amazing Asian American daughters who are here tonight, a diverse community and social and school district were imperative for our non-traditional transracial family. Today, families come in all shapes, sizes, colors, and belief systems. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to family or learning for that matter, and I hope to be a voice and advocate for all families in Brighton. As a parent, I value the many programs and services offered. Because my children spent their first year in an orphanage, they had developmental challenges to overcome. Early intervention and primary project were instrumental in their abilities to overcome delays. The teachers, counselors, and social workers were wonderful to work with, consistently demonstrating concern, care, and commitment. They're now in the 7th and 9th grades. They've blossomed and they are continuing to thrive. I am grateful for what Brighton has done for them then and now. It's important that our schools continue to provide the needed support regardless of where students are academically, emotionally, or developmentally. There are always challenges to be addressed and hurdles to overcome as we seek the best in education. As a community, we face fiscal challenges, but with the support of all constituents, we're tackling these challenges head on. My goal is to support, advance, and promote the academic rigor and personal development of all students in a fiscally responsible manner if elected. I will work to ensure that we remain steadfast in our focus to provide safe, secure, and healthy learning environments that foster creativity and innovation as we prepare students for a complex world. As Brighton residents, I believe it is critical that we get involved, lend our expertise, support, and counsel to the community. I've always had a long-standing commitment to giving back. I've been a champion of social justice and empowerment of underrepresented groups, including women. I have a passion for children and adoption, and I've been active in the adoption community. I volunteered my time and talents in a number of organizations, and I am very active in my place of worship, and I have volunteered in our schools throughout the years. I have an MBA in marketing from Fordham and a bachelor's degree in communications from Ithaca College. Since 2012, I've held the position of Executive Director of Marketing and Communications in the Development and Alumni Relations Department at RIT. I believe my knowledge of higher education, combined with my experience in communications, marketing, development, and management, will lend additional knowledge, skills, and abilities to this board. I'm an independent, strategic thinker with vision, ethics, leadership, and determination to get things done. I will take this role seriously, and I will be your voice and your advocate, fulfilling the mission and vision of the Brighton schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Sachs.
Yes. I'm a 48-year resident of Brighton. I taught 5 years of high school at Monroe High School, 36 years at NTIDRIT, and I've been retired for 11 years, volunteering with 6th graders at School 50 and East High School. Prior to the Board of Education responsibilities, I was chair of the PTSA Budget Committee, chair of the Long Range Planning Committee of the district, 88 to 89, and I have been on the Brighton School Board since 1990, vice president twice, president twice, and I have worked with 4 superintendents, 1 interim superintendent. I have served on many curriculum review committees through the years, as well as on the Teacher Center Policy Board. My profession is a mathematics teacher, and I have been active in helping found AMTRA, the Association of Math Teachers of the Rochester area. I've been active in AMPNIS. I've been the journal editor of the AMPNIS Journal. I serve on the Finger Lakes STEM Hub, volunteer for Cure Childhood Cancer, and serve on the University of Rochester Dean's Alumni Advisory Committee for the Warner School. In 2010, I was awarded Outstanding Retired Faculty Member of the Year from the RIT Retirees Group. It was based on my volunteer activities and involvement with the community. I have applied all my experience to ensure our students receive the best education possible. I'm passionate about education, about my role as a board member, and I want to see projects we have started finished. In addition, I have lobbied in Albany and locally for the rights of all school boards, let alone our own school boards. And I hope to be able to serve another 3 years this term.
Thank you. And Ms. Gilbert.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry, and thank you to the PTSA for hosting this candidates night. Prior to joining the board, I was an active member of the school community for more than 15 years. I served in numerous volunteer roles in each of the 4 buildings and thought I was very knowledgeable as to what the job of a school board member entailed. After my first meeting, I realized that I had an enormous amount of learning ahead of me. It took me at least a year before I felt as though I had the knowledge necessary to become a productive member of the team. Every other school board member I have spoken to, both in Brighton as well as in other districts, has reported a similar experience. As a member of the Brighton Board of Education for the past 15 years, I am proud to say your Board of Education, with the outstanding leadership of our district administrators and faculty, has navigated through difficult times and succeeded in maintaining the district's high standards of academic excellence. Over the past few years, in addition to the regular work that is done, we have addressed and supported issues of diversity, created a blueprint process to address long-term planning, as well as facility improvement, and been good financial stewards of our community's resources. There are 5 values which I believe define what is needed to create a successful school board. They also happen to be the 5 tenets of Brighton Believes. They are integrity, respect, responsibility, kindness, and self-control. To that list, I would like to add one more word: teamwork. As stated in our district's bylaws, board members have no authority over school affairs as individuals. They have authority only when acting as a body duly called into session. No individual can be a productive member of a school board if they are driven by a particular agenda. This school board is a member of the Brighton Central School District team, and we are fortunate to have an exceptional team. As individuals who are also board members, we are all involved on various committees within the district. However, as board members, we do not work as individuals. I am passionate about the work we do for our children and our community. Among the volunteer jobs in which I've served prior to joining the board are classroom helper, room parent, activity night chaperone, and Springfest cook and server. I've served as a co-chair for Jump Rope for Heart, the BHS PTSA, Staff Appreciation Luncheons, and Senior Badge. In addition, I worked for many years with the Department of Visual and Performing Arts. More recently, I have served on both the TCMS and BHS Counseling Advisory Committees, the K-12 Extended Studies, Science, Art, and Health Program Review Committees, as well as the District Wellness Committee. As have all of our board members, I have been actively involved in the process, which has led us to the proposed Facilities Improvement Plan. Additionally, I am an active volunteer at both the Brighton Food Cupboard and Brighton Your Wardrobe, which has helped me to be a better board member by giving me a greater understanding of the diversity of our population and the needs within our community. Along with Larry Davis and Marvin Sachs, I am pleased to have been endorsed for re-election by the Brighton Teachers Association. I will be honored and will work with continued enthusiasm. That's the end? If the community allows me to continue to serve on the Brighton School Board for another 3-year term. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we will begin with the questions, and again, we'll start at the beginning with Mr. Davis. And the first question for all of you is, what do you see as the primary issues facing the Brighton School District, and what will be a priority if you are elected?
So it's a 2-part question.
Yes.
All right. Part 1, I think I addressed in my opening statement, which is, it's this idea of good to great or great to greater. This is an exceptional school district. We have to walk in every day and say, how are we going to be better today? We do that with the staff, we do that with the students, we do that with the administration. And that's across a broad set of categories. Then you asked about a priority. For me, an enormous priority is our facilities. What we can do to have our facilities keep up in the evolution of education. And I do mean mostly the physical facilities. We have great schools. Architecturally, they're beautiful, but they need to keep up with technology. They need to keep up with the changing needs of our students. And the Facilities Master Planning Committee that I was a part of has become part of that blueprint that says, here's what we can do. There'll be an opportunity to vote on the Facilities Master Plan on the May 16th budget vote. But for me, an enormous priority for us is the Facilities Master Plan and implementing that plan over a 5-year period.
Thank you. Ms. Sobieraj, same question.
I think that, as I mentioned earlier, I chose to move to Brighton when I came back from New York because of the schools. And I value what my children have received here in terms of learning. So I think obviously an ongoing priority would be to ensure that we continue to deliver that high standard of education. But truthfully, even as Larry mentioned, we need to do that in an appropriate setting with the appropriate technology. The world is changing. I work now in higher ed, and our students need to be prepared for what's out there. Whether it's additional education or it's a career or it's the military, they need to be not prepared technically, but they need to be prepared in terms of other more softer skill sets. So I think it's important that we maintain a balance within our schools, that we continue to provide that academic rigor, that we have the capabilities, the classrooms, the technology to deliver on our excellence in education, and that we do that in a fiscally responsible manner, because we're beholden, I believe, to our taxpayers. And we pay some of the higher taxes in Brighton. My taxes in Westchester County were a lot cheaper than they are here. So my goal would be to ensure that we continually to keep our tax base in mind.
Okay, thank you very much. And Dr. Sachs, same question.
Well, I mean, I think the big priority of our schools at this point is our project to improve all of the buildings. And along with that, I think we've talked a lot about the 21st century classroom and seeing what is involved in that. And we've had some things through the Teacher Center Policy Board, some grants or applications for grants to work on these classrooms. And I think along with our new construction that we are proposing, I think we can move forward. Of course, the kids, the students will benefit from excellent instruction, as we all believe. And yeah, I think that should be our priority.
Okay, thank you very much. And Ms. Gilbert?
I would just like to add to what everybody else has said already, rather than repeating it, that I think a number one priority for all of our students is our concerns about their social and emotional well-being and their safety. Those issues seem to be coming up more and more throughout our entire society, not just here in Brighton, but those are issues that we take very seriously and we are addressing very seriously, and realize that's a very important part of a child's education. If they're not feeling safe and they're not feeling healthy, they can't learn. So that, I would just like to add that on top of what everyone else has said.
Okay, thank you. That actually leads into the next question. And Ms. Sobieraj, you'll get this one first. What are the changing needs of Brighton families, and how should Brighton schools respond?
Well, I think Julene actually brought up an excellent point, and just today, and I'm going to share this because it really impacted me extensively. A colleague of mine's ninth grader from a different school district killed herself this week. So, and I don't mean to be crass, but we need to be addressing those types of needs of students. We need to be able to recognize when kids are in crisis, when kids are in trouble, that we have the right supports, that we have the right communication channels and the feedback channels back to the families. No one wants to get that kind of phone call. No one wants to discover that horrible thing. But that concerns me. I'm hearing more and more about children with great, depression and other anxieties, and I think we need to start paying attention to that more so than we currently do.
Thank you. And Dr. Sachs?
Yeah, I can't agree more. We certainly do pay a lot of attention to that. We've had a lot of circumstances with children in need. And I think that the changing family, goes right along from maybe in the 70s and 80s with two parents working. And I think we have to be aware of all of these things. And I think we've tried to provide. We have a parent center here that tries to help parents in need. I think we have a staff that's very understanding. And I would just hope we would continue with that and keep going.
Okay. Ms. Gilbert?
As I said earlier, I have worked on the counseling advisory committees for both the high school and the middle school for a number of years now. And in addition to the creation of the Parent Resource Center, which Marv just mentioned, the work that is being done by counselors today has changed. It doesn't even look like what counselors did a couple of decades ago. We have an enormous number of groups of individual counseling. Our counselors are on top of everything that's going on in the community, that's going on with individual families. I can't imagine a group of people working harder to try to assure the well-being of all of our students. We have the Brighton Food Cupboard, which helps to meet the needs of families who struggle financially to put food on the table. We have the Clothes Cupboard, where all the merchandise is free to anybody who's part of our community. During the break, I met a family who is part of our community over at the cupboard, even though we weren't really open, so that they could get spring clothes. It's done quietly, it's done with dignity. It gives us an opportunity to connect with people. If it's determined that they need more services, we have a social worker at the food cupboard who can help that. And Julie Clement from the Family Resource Center is a person who does that connecting, as well as the counselors in each building. So we can always do better, but this district has worked very hard and made it a priority. It's a priority in our blueprint. It's a priority every single day here.
Thank you. And Mr. Davis?
I think we have to evolve our listening as families evolve. So there's all sorts of different situations that occur, and the listening that I'm talking about is whether it's counselors, it's being aware of social media and how it's used today and listening for that, listening in terms of kids' conversations in classes, and my biggest concern in all that is how we provide, this is what Julene mentioned, resources to our staff to be able to keep up with all the different ways to listen and all the different avenues to listen from. As a school board and as a school, we've responded to a lot of that listening with the creation of Brighton Your Wardrobe, with the creation of the food cupboard. We have homelessness in Brighton, and that's sometimes hard for people to comprehend. So it's listening that allows that to happen. So we talk about the evolution of families and the differing needs that families have. That requires an evolution of listening and trying to keep up with all the ways there are signs and trying to get those signs. I think our counseling staff, and this is a repeated point of Julene, just does a remarkable job keeping up with as many things as they do. So we have to maintain sort of a focus on making sure they are supported in all the ways they're trying to keep up with the kids.
Thank you very much. So the next questions come several times to this table, so I'm going to ask it now, and Dr. Sachs, you get this for the first. What are your thoughts on the issue of delaying school start time for teens?
Well, we put a study out on that. We have a study on school start time, and we certainly are very much aware of the research. We have asked students, we have asked parents, and we have gotten very interesting responses from that. So I think our study is going to continue, and we are going to make a decision, but I don't think until next year, because we have a lot of mixed results from the questionnaires that we have.
Ms. Gilbert?
Yes to what Marv said, and let me just add on to that a little bit. There are a lot of considerations. We appreciate the statements from the American Pediatric Association. We acknowledge that. We know it's a serious issue. And then we get into the functional piece of it. We would be the first district in our area, if we made that kind of a change, to do that. That could have potential impact on after-school activities. Students are worried about losing before-school activities. Parents have expressed concerns about daycare for younger children. So we are continuing to study it. It is a serious and important issue, especially when you take into account our students' mental health and well-being. But we realize that it's not there is no easy answer to this, and we do not have consensus from our community that it's what our community wants to do. So at this point, we're going to continue to study it, continue to work with the community, and continue to explore what possible options we have.
Mr. Davis?
A lot of the work that Marv and Julene referenced of that committee is available on the website. What the committee said was basically winnowed it down across all possibilities to 3 options. Keep everything as it is, try to effect a change for the start time for just the high school, which didn't seem like it would be a big resource, i.e. dollar cause, or affect both the high school and the middle school, which would have some cost associated with it. There was a concern, and the students were surveyed, parents were surveyed. There was a concern in the survey to the students because a number of the students who filled out the survey seemed to think that if they got a later start time, they lose access to some after-school activities. So I have a question about maybe we should re-survey the students to make sure they understand they wouldn't lose access to some of those activities. So there's still some work to be done. I think what the AMA and a number of medical organizations have stated is pretty clear and thorough. I think about what Cindy said, which is we have a tax responsibility, which is most people feel they Nobody feels they don't pay enough taxes. Most people feel they pay too much taxes. So if we elicit a change, it's in fact going to cost money, which can be done. We just have to justify it within a budget. I guess consistent with Marv, we're sort of expecting a decision next year from that committee. It was comprised of staff, feedback from students, and parents in the community. But that, at least initially, that committee winnowed it down to 3 options.
Thank you. And Ms. Sobieraj?
Well, without reiterating what everyone else said, I mean, as a parent, I took that survey. I certainly have my own opinions, but I recognize that I'm just one voice in an entire town of voices. I think that, as everyone else said, we need to continue to do the research because there isn't consensus. I could talk to all my friends and we all sit on different sides, and I have children in the middle school and the high school that would be impacted by different start times. Truthfully, it would be logistically a challenge, but it's not about me. It's about all of our constituents. So I respect the research that's out there, but I'm not sure that just because my kids will start later, that their day's not going to end earlier. They're still going to be, everything's just going to shift. So, there's a lot of ramifications for change, and we shouldn't do change for change's sake. And having been, I am a single parent, and the logistics around younger kids and daycare has significant ramifications because they're shutting down at 6 o'clock. So, there's a lot of consideration, and I think we as a district need to approach it very thoughtfully because we're not going to make everybody happy regardless of which way we go.
Thank you. Next question, and Ms. Gilbert, you get this one first. What are your views on the current state of STEM education in Brighton, and what would you do to improve upon that?
Brighton has a long history of having extraordinary success in the sciences throughout the grades, but particularly at the high school. For many years, and I don't know what the numbers are today, Brighton had female students taking we had a large number of female students taking advanced sciences, more than most other districts. It's almost a given in Brighton that our students take 4 years of science, which is not a requirement. Having said that, we are starting to add in more of the technology pieces, but I think we still have a ways to go.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
I think STEM is one of those good to great or great to greater situations. I know how many people feel about standardized tests. Our students tend to test very well, and that's only one indicator. It's not the only one. Part of our rigorous coursework blueprint is having more kids take APs, particularly in math and science, but giving more kids access to rigorous coursework in those areas. So we're very good in this category, and the danger in that is being complacent. I don't have any concerns for our school district. Based on the blueprint we've built, we expect to increase the rigor and have more kids participating, both males and females, more kids participating in STEM.
Terrific. Ms. Sobieraj?
Well, I work at RIT, and we're all about STEM. And I think the district does an excellent job in the technology, STEM-related education. But I would like to see us do more to encourage, even though, as Julene pointed out, we've got more girls taking STEM classes probably than many other districts. They're not going on to pursue those careers in college. Based on the numbers that I'm seeing where I work, they are slowly increasing, but they're not increasing at a fast enough rate. That's where the jobs are in the future in this country, are in STEM-related careers. And I think that while we are doing a good job, to Larry's point, I don't think we're doing a great job to encourage more STEM involvement among girls. I'm partial, I have 2 girls, but I see it where I work. I see it, alumni talk about it where I work, and there are more things that can be done both in the classroom and outside the classroom to give girls more exposure, and underrepresented groups too, I will add, outside of just of girls, to give them more opportunity to experience, to fall in love with a STEM career.
Thank you. And Dr. Sachs?
Well, since I sit on the Finger Lakes STEM Hub, and as a representative of the Brighton School District, I have to say we do quite a bit. Now, could we do more? Of course. Last year, we won an award from the Brighton science classroom, and 2 students won an award for a presentation at St. John Fisher. We have a STEM coordinator, and I think we are pushing a lot of STEM ideas in the classrooms. I think we should continue to do that.
Thank you. So there are plenty more student, staff, and instructional questions sitting up here on the table, but I do want to move into board roles for a few minutes. So I'm going to ask the panel some questions related to your role as a board member. The first one is, a board commitment involves more time than just attending board meetings. What amount of time and energy do you believe it takes to be a successful board member, and how do you carve that time out to make that available? And Mr. Davis, we're back to you for the first answer.
Planning, because it doesn't come in any sort of consistent fashion. You could have a week where you have meetings 4 nights in a row, and another week where there's only 1 meeting. The board that I work with has been incredibly accommodating, as has been my employer, because I work full-time, in terms of freeing me up to attend meetings during the day as necessary, but the board's been great about scheduling meetings at night and some of the committee meetings towards the end of the day. It is a ton of work, and it's incredibly rewarding, and it's a privilege to serve this community and its kids. But you have to look at your calendar every week and say, what do I have? And every once in a while, you have to say, I can't make this meeting. How can I get the notes and sort of go through it? But it's just multitasking and understanding what's up, what's important, and just being really disciplined with your calendar. It's always a lot more time than people think. That's an absolute truth.
Thank you. Ms. Sobieraj.
Well, I've already shared, I'm a single mom, and there's another single mom I know who's in the room. I saw her come in, and we get things done. It's what we do. We don't have any alternative. My employer can be pretty understanding, but if I need, I'll need to use vacation if I need to cut out to go to a meeting. But I decided to run because I believe it's important, and because there is a commitment. I'll do what I got to do to get things accomplished. It takes a village to raise children. That's the old saying. So, I've got a good support system in place who can help me with things at home if need be. But serving the community is something I would like to do in a different capacity. And it's just time. You just got to, like Larry said, you got to rearrange your calendar and keep a long to-do list.
Thank you. Dr. Sachs.
Well, you can't say 10 hours, you can't say 20 hours, because it's going to vary, it's going to depend, and we've already talked about serving on different committees in the district. It's not just 2 board meetings a month and you're done, so it's a real commitment. You've got to realize I'm retired, but I wasn't when I first got on the board, and I was able to make sure that I had time for board activities as well as my teaching and full-time activities at RIT. So it's a lot of work, and I think a lot of people don't realize it.
Thank you. And Ms. Gilbert.
Yes, that would be the answer. Everything that they have said is true. Probably 10 hours a week is a starting point. And I think that I feel very fortunate to be part of this current board, because we all really love what we're doing, and we all make the time to do it. And like I said, we all serve on various committees within the district, so that gets added into the work. But between preparing for a meeting, attending additional events at other schools, our retreats, it's probably 10 or 15 hours a week. It's probably a fair average. And it really helps to be able to have the time to do that and not feel as though you're really struggling or fighting or having to give up one thing for another. And I'm fortunate that I'm in the position that I do have the time to do that. And I'm grateful I've been able to do it.
Thank you. The next, as related to board role again, and Ms. Sobieraj, you get this first. What is the best way to address differences of opinion on the school board?
Well, I work work in an academic environment, and believe me, there's no shortage of opinion. I think that the best way to address is to be the best listener you could possibly be. Open-mindedness, strong listening skills enables anyone to be open to other opinions. And I think that without that ability, you just can't be successful on a board or in work or even in your family. I think the politics of the last 18 months everybody can relate to that. A lot of strong opinions out there, but we need to be open, we need to be able to come together and agree to disagree.
Thank you. Dr. Sachs.
Well, this board, as Julene has indicated, certainly works well together. And it doesn't mean that we don't have different opinions. We're able to express them, and we're able to listen to each other. Nobody gets mad. Nobody goes stomping out of the room or banging their fist on the table, and that's a real plus. Over the years, I've worked with some boards here in Brighton that haven't been as congenial and as productive, I think, as this board has been.
Thank you. Ms. Gilbert.
This board is very respectful of one another, and everybody across the board listens, shares opinions, and then we come to consensus. And it's very important that when we make a large decision, whether it's about our upcoming budget vote, our proposal for the facilities project, that we all can support it with 100% of our being as we go out and represent it to the community. We can't make those kinds of big decisions if we haven't listened to one another, shared our concerns, and then move forward when we get to a place where we're all very comfortable. So it is a lot of communicating and a lot of sharing and a lot of listening. And it's really been a very positive experience with this board.
Thank you. And Mr. Davis.
My employer is a great believer in productive conflict, and that is an honest disagreement isn't about somebody being right or wrong. It's understanding the other person's point of view. And I think, as Cindy said, it's the opposite of what we have in American politics today. What you do in those environments is first focus on the metrics. Our metrics as a school board happen to be the blueprint. What are the things that we're talking about? What are the actions we want to take, and how do they drive results across the blueprint? But I love productive conflict. I love getting challenged. I love challenging, and when it's done in a respectful manner, sometimes even with a little bit of humor. I disagree with Mark a little bit. I do get a little angry once in a while, but we never stamp out. We never stomp out of a room. We have good discussion, talk about where we're coming from, and it's just always been easy to understand a different person's experience and understand that their opinion was formed based on that experience, and not to look at it as right or wrong, but just as their opinion. And again, focus on the metrics. What are the things that we're trying to drive? The productive conflict is good. What's the decision we make? Once we all walk out of the room, we don't look backwards, we look forwards.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Sachs. What role should the school board have in affecting county, state, and federal legislation?
Well, I think we should get very involved. I know I am, and several board members, Mark Akanovich, and several of us are very involved in lobbying locally and lobbying in Albany, and actually some of us have gone down to DC and lobbied nationally. So I'm a very strong proponent of active board participation in involving it in the government, because they're the guys that are giving us some of our money.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Gilbert.
Marv and Mark Kukanovich in particular have really done an outstanding job of advocating in Albany. Mark and Kevin McGowan have done an outstanding job of advocating locally, and Fight for Brighton has done an amazing job of advocating locally. Without Joe Morelli and Joe Robach, we would have some real serious financial challenges, and we're grateful to the work that they've done. But it's very important to have those positive relationships, and that when you need assistance, because you've established those relationships, we were able to get the assistance that they gave us, and we're very grateful for that.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
So I wrote this down to get it correctly. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. That's a Margaret Mead quote that I happen to like. It's the very definition of what Fight for Brighton did on behalf of the school district. Traveling to Albany is incredibly important. It's not something that I participate a lot in because of my work, but as Julene, I think, pointed out, Marv and Mark are down there a lot. Our administrative team is down there a lot. We have an unbelievably committed group of citizens who stump all day, all week, use social media, get in front of Joe Morelli and Joe Robach to get this community what it deserves. And it's that team, staff, board, and citizens in our community that were able to get the results that we got. So I think it's an incredibly important function of the board. And we have a couple of board members that do it extraordinarily well.
Thank you. And Ms. Sobieraj.
I clearly agree with everything everyone said. The board's role, I believe, is critical. I was very impressed with the grassroots efforts that came out of Fight for Brighton. I came to the night that Joe Morelli spoke. I wrote my letters, I made my phone calls, I sent my emails. I got more involved in the national election than ever before, but to be involved locally is where it truly matters. And I think we got to stay in it, we got to keep fighting. But the ability to bring all constituents together, the board being one of them, was remarkable. Those efforts should be applauded, and we have to keep it up.
Thank you. So I'll move on after this last question, which Ms. Gilbert gets the question on board service, and then I'll move back to some of the questions. This one came from the floor. It's how do you feel about term limits for board members or justify unlimited terms on the school board?
Well, since I have been on the board for 15 years, clearly I have enjoyed every bit of my board service, and I would like to continue. So I guess that answers the question.
All right. Mr. Davis.
We have term limits. People can choose to vote. And what I think about is we have a community where it has a high demand on its school board, on its schools, and on its school staff. And if someone chooses to take on this role, which is incredibly challenging, incredibly time-consuming, and it's a job that takes place in Wegmans, it's a job that takes place on the ball fields, people are talking to you about what's happening. If you want to do it for as long as you possibly can, I applaud you because it's a lot of work.
Thank you. Ms. Sobieraj.
I think change is good, and I am in favor of term limits. Probably no surprise there since I'm here. This was my first time running. We see this in my day job, the lack of term limits, and in our board. And truthfully, sometimes some board members really need to step away, but they can't because it's their thing. I think I'm the only one here who actually has children in the schools right now, and I realize everyone's a long-standing resident, and I've only got the 14 years, but I'm in it. I've got 2 kids. I'm in 2 buildings. I got many more years in this district with children in it. So, but I do think change is good, and we don't get enough change if we don't put some limits around it.
Thank you. And Dr. Sachs.
Well, unless we all change as time goes on, I'm not one to speak. I've served 9 terms, and I'm going for the 10th, so what can I say? Term limits, they would be fine if they were there, and if they aren't there, and as Larry says, if you want to serve and you're passionate about it, so be it. So that's the way I feel.
Okay. So now we'll get back to some of the questions that have been coming in via the Twitter and Facebook and from the floor. So then we start with Mr. Davis. Some of the candidates mentioned diversity. Please define what diversity means to you and describe how it impacts education.
Boy, diversity means a lot of things. I think it commonly may refer to race, or I think it's so much broader than that. When I ran 2 terms ago, one of the areas of diversity I was focused on was guess I'll say it this way, diversity of choice for our high school kids. I happen to have a son who is an incredibly intelligent kid. I never thought college was a great choice for him. I wanted to have more open discussion about careers. He's exceptional with his hands, just a quick learn on machines and things. And at the time, I didn't find that the high school was as accommodating for non-college choice kids. This school district does an exceptional job of preparing kids for college. And I think it's actually come a long way in being much more open-minded to careers, to a gap year, to vocational school and things like that. Some of the work that's being done with BOCES is extraordinary. So my definition, I think the question is really what's my definition of diversity? It's so much broader than race or gender. It's choice. It's being open to anyone's opinions and ideas, regardless of their experiences. And in my particular case, it was a motivating factor for me to join the board because I was interested in more non-college choices for our juniors and seniors in high school.
Thank you. Ms. Sobieraj.
Another wise parent once said to me, and I believe her to be correct, diversity is being allowed to attend the school dance, but inclusion is being asked to dance. So for me, it's broader than diversity. It is about true inclusion. I have a diverse family. My children are adopted. They're born in China. Diversity for me would be, and although yes, diversity is bigger than race, but for diversity for me in a classroom is I would like my kids to have a teacher standing in front of them who's of a color other than white. I'm just going to be blunt. We and I know I've talked to Dr. McGowan. You know, they've gone to some conferences, different recruiting practices. Diversity for me would be let my kids have some role models here that look more like them so that they feel included. For me, it's not just about diversity, it is mostly about inclusion. And I practice, you know, at RIT, I participate in something called Partnerships and Pluralism. And it's an opportunity to learn about other folks from different cultures, different backgrounds, different races, different genders, what have you. To have more extracurricular opportunities for students here. I know there are a few clubs, but other things, but mostly to give kids role models that are different than themselves.
Thank you. Dr. Sachs.
Yeah, well, Brighton as a community 25, 30 years ago was not very diverse at all. I think we have a diverse population. We have a diverse student population. Faculty is a difficult issue. It was a difficult issue at RIT when I was there. It's hard to recruit diverse faculty and have them stay. So I think we're always working on it. We always want to know where can we find more diverse, qualified faculty though. We don't want just faculty that are run-of-the-mill or anything else. We want qualified the best. And I think we're doing a good job. We certainly could do better. We're trying.
Thank you. Ms. Gilbert.
We are trying, but I think that we have made some significant strides as far as addressing diversity in our community. There's a club at the high school called the Mosaic Club, and they address significant diversity issues. The club is made up of a diverse group of students, and they are addressing those, not just issues within the high school, but with issues within our community. We've been supportive of the efforts of CURB. We have joined NEMNET, which is a vehicle for us to be able to recruit candidates of more diverse backgrounds. We also have a very diverse LGBTQ community. It's our understanding that students who are part of that community feel well accepted. We have diverse families. We have significant socioeconomic diversity in our community, and we have students whose families come from many, many different countries. So it is a very diverse community, and our diversity is celebrated in each of the buildings on a regular basis. And I think that we are really heading in the right direction with that.
While we're on the topic of diversity, I've got several questions up here that speak to diversity, to underserved populations, to immigrant populations, and to gaps in achievement. So I'm going to try to combine this question a little bit. If you need me to repeat it, just let me know. And we start with Ms. Sobieraj first. So knowing that gaps exist as you get reports on testing, as you understand what's going on in your schools, what population do you see as underserved here at Brighton School District? And how would you ensure that every child, regardless of race or immigrant status, receives the high-quality education that this community is so proud of?
Well, that's a complex question.
It is, and I combined several to get to that question.
Right.
So what are your thoughts about underserved populations? How does the district work with those underserved populations, and how do you as a board make sure that every child receives a high-quality education?
I think based on conversations I've had with other parents in other districts and parents in this district, I think this district does a very good job in providing programs and services for underrepresented groups or immigrants or however you define it. My children benefited from early intervention and primary projects, both of which are delivered through the school district. And without those services, I don't think they would be where they are today. Because they are not the majority, I think that we need to make sure that we are assessing the needs of all of our constituents within the community, especially those that are newer, especially those who are coming from another country, another location. This is a welcoming community. Rochester, even in the greater Rochester area, we welcome refugees, we welcome immigrants, we welcome people of diverse backgrounds. But while we have the programs and services, I don't know enough that we've been able to recognize who all those folks are and are able to bring them into the fold, make sure that they have what they need. I think it's a challenge for us as a society, especially what's going on lately across the country. We've got to be extra vigilant, extra hyper, extra involved, and I think it starts from the top down.
Thank you. Dr. Sachs?
I think on my years on the board, we have done due diligence for being sure that students in need are taken care of. We go out of our way to do that, and I think and I think we're doing a very good job right now. I'm not sure how many immigrant students we get from other countries, but I know any student in need, we are there to help them and protect them. So that is a complicated issue.
Thank you. Ms. Gilbert?
The district goes to great lengths to, especially to use assessments to determine where there are gaps in all of our students' learning, but then as it's segregated out to different populations, when it's determined that there's a population that there are gaps or there are lags, those lags are being addressed throughout the classroom and throughout instructional and support services. Additionally, we've created our AIM program, which addresses students who, because of life challenges, whatever they are, have struggled and have not been successful in a traditional learning environment. These are high school students who would be at great risk of dropping out and not graduating. And this year, those students that are in that class are on target to all graduate. So we're going to have the highest graduation rate we've had in several years. And it's because several years ago we identified those kinds of gaps and we created a program to address those gaps. And then additionally, we have an amazing English as a second language program that addresses the needs of students, from the teacher of that program bringing those families into the closed cupboard to get clothing, to get food, to get them well integrated into our community, not just into our school community, but into our Brighton community. And so I think we're really working very hard and doing a good job of addressing those issues.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Our blueprint addresses this pretty clearly. It doesn't say rigorous coursework for some. It says rigorous coursework for all. So, there's analytics out there that can tell you by group how certain groups are performing. But the way we set up that blueprint is we take each student and say, what does he or she need? So regardless of their background or their group, our staff is working with each student to say, what do you need to succeed? When you look at the things that are being done, Julene mentioned a number of them. I mean, it's everything from Brighten Your Wardrobe, Food Cupboard, AIM. I mean, the high school has a wonderful program for all. We had friends that moved to this community, and their daughter started in high school freshman year as a first-time student in Brighton. Tom Hall and that team have a regular luncheon with the new students to see how they're doing. There's just so many support activities that are taking place. This, to me, is a great to greater opportunity. I think we do a pretty great job at it. We've got to be better, but again, I go back to the blueprint, which is very deliberate. It's not rigorous coursework for some. It's rigorous coursework for all.
Thank you. So the next question from the floor goes to Dr. Sachs. And will you work toward full-day kindergarten?
Yes. It's actually a no-brainer. Of course we are. We're proposing a building at Council Rock, and we're moving full steam ahead.
Thank you. Proposition 2 on our ballot is for a facilities improvement plan. And if that is supported by the voters, then we will move forward, and once our construction is completed at Council Rock, we will have full-day kindergarten.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Have been, am now, will continue to. And to Julene's point about the vote on May 16th, spent a lot of time with the facilities master planning because of my professional life. That work was sort of a joy for me to look at buildings, work in buildings, and to go through. It's a great opportunity. It's also a great opportunity for this board to make sure from a tax standpoint, we've talked about taxes a little bit tonight, some of the families who have more challenges income-wise are impacted minimally. So yes, we'll support, yes, am supporting, yes, we'll continue to support, vote on May 16th.
Thank you. And Ms. Sobieraj.
Yes, I wish we had full-day kindergarten 10 years ago when I needed it. So, yes, big proponent.
All right. Well, that gets that question answered. Okay. Ms. Gilbert, this is the first one, and I'm going to sort of reword this. So there's always that balance between spending money on curriculum and instruction and technology. If there were a disagreement on where that would land, what would your way to be as a board member to make sure that that kind of money is being balanced in an appropriate way, curriculum, instruction, and technology?
Well, at this point in time, I don't know how you can separate the two, because the technology is a very important part of our curriculum and our instruction. Having said that, Proposition 3 on our ballot is to fund technology. We have a technology reserve, and is asking for funding for a portion of our technology within our budget. So I don't see how you can separate it, but that's how we have funded it, and we've been doing that for a number of years.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Sometimes how that gets worded is, would you buy a pallet of tablets or would you get another teacher? We've never been faced with that decision. We work thoughtfully to say, what's the technology needs? We've talked a lot about STEM and the way the world is going, how the world is evolving learning. But those decisions are made every year in the budget, and we balance both those things. So there's no, you pick one or the other. We've never been faced with that choice. We have a responsibility to all of you as taxpayers, and we have a great staff. They consume by far the largest part of our budget, and I'm very proud of that. But the answer is you do both. You just find ways to do both.
Thank you. Ms. Sobieraj?
I concur. You have to find ways to do both. They are not one or the other. They work in tandem. That's the way the world is. That's the way the world will continue to be. I see it in higher education, so it's no different there than it should be here. So we have to find a balance, and we have to do both.
Thank you, and Dr. Sachs.
Yeah, well, I concur with what's been said. A lot of times the curriculum is based on technology, and vice versa. So it's hard to separate them. And I wouldn't come down on either. I'd come down to help both.
Okay. Back to Mr. Davis for the beginning, and this is from the floor as well, is what can the board do to decrease the presence of drugs in our schools?
I gave part of this answer before unintentionally, and that's listening. You have to understand what your students are doing, watch behaviors. You have to create a safe place, and I believe our principals do, for students to report on behalf of other students. And sometimes that sounds like reporting on or snitching, but if you're truly concerned about your friend and whether he or she is having some challenges, you need to feel safe in reporting that to someone so you can help them get help. That listening also extends, unfortunately, to social media at times and watching what's going on there. We have a tremendous relationship with the Brighton Police Department, whom we work with. This is just a thing. I mean, you can't go an hour on TV without seeing a commercial about opioid addiction or something like this. This is a real serious issue, and you have to be proactive, and you have to have people who listen and watch and understand what's going on with the students, and you have to create that safe environment for the students. And again, I think our principals and teachers do that in spades every day.
Thank you. Ms. Sobieraj?
It's an ongoing challenge, and it seems the wealthier the school district, the larger the problem. And I know that's a very broad statement, but I've talked with other parents elsewhere, and it's mind-boggling that it's as prevalent as it is. But as Larry said, I think it's providing that safe environment. It's giving the teachers and the staff the tools to recognize certain behaviors. So, and behaviors are different depending on what drug students are on. So I think that keeping that professional staff up to date on what to look for, why students might be behaving a certain way, and as Larry said, providing that feedback channel, that confidential mechanism where it's not tattling, or whatever the word is they use these days, that it's okay to share concern about another student, a friend. It's actually a responsibility as a student to do that. And I think we just have to pay attention because this is not a problem that's going to go away. And, you know, it's a problem no parent wants to face, no school district wants to face. It's out there, and I think we're prepared. We just have to continue to be prepared.
Thank you. Dr. Sachs?
We need to continue our good counselors, good social workers, good psychologists, good teachers, and we need to, as everyone else has said, keep an eye out and be prepared to help the students.
Thank you. And Ms. Gilbert?
Additionally, to what has already been said, in our blueprint, one of the things that we have identified is the need for all students to have connections with adults. And so it is one of our guiding principles that we know that every student in our buildings has a connection to a particular adult. It's easier in the lower grades where there's a classroom teacher and she only has, 24 or 25 students in her class, and those connections are made, but it's more challenging when you get to middle school and the high school and kids are moving around. So the first year we did this, there was a great big, I don't even know what to call it, with every student's name on it, and faculty came in and identified a student that they felt that they had a positive connection with, so that we knew that every student in that building had a positive connection with at least one adult. And if there were gaps, we made sure that those gaps were closed, because we know how important it is for students to have someone that they can talk to when they're challenged. And I think this is a great step to helping with those kinds of not just drugs and alcohol, but social and emotional problems as well.
Well, thank you to all of you. It is now upon the 8 o'clock hour, and I want to allow you each your 2 minutes for your closing statements. And again, we'll start with Mr. Davis.
I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve, for the terms I have served so far, and excited about the opportunity to continue to serve. I've been volunteering for all three of my kids since we moved into this district. Countless hot dog roast, ice cream socials, outdoor ed overnights, superintendent search, just about anything. We love this community. I would love to have the chance to serve all of you again, serve our kids, serve our staff, and I ask for your vote on May 16th.
Thank you. Ms. Sobieraj.
So thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I believe our schools are a hallmark of the town of Brighton. As I pointed out, many seek to live here because of our history of academic excellence, our commitment to diversity, and the abundance of support from a caring community. I am running for school board because I want to continue to do my part to help our schools build on our heritage of excellence, because I believe education is the cornerstone of our society, and it is crucial to building the knowledge and skills of our young people and also in nurturing their values and belief systems. I believe a great community combined with stellar teachers, dedicated staff, strong administrators, devoted parents, and a committed school board help shape our students to be responsible, resilient, and productive members of a very complex and ever-changing world. I am passionate about contributing to the success of our children in the schools that support each and individual potential. I would be honored to be a member of the board, and I will work closely with those who share my desire to realize these goals for our children through thoughtful management decisions, conscientious problem solving, and fiscal responsibility. If elected, I look forward to fulfilling our district's mission and vision, helping to shape the future of our school district, working with all of you here in Brighton. I respectfully ask for your vote on May 16th. And thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sachs.
Yes, as I said before, I'm passionate about education. I'm passionate about what I do and what I've done in retirement. I have had nothing but lots of professional growth by serving on this board, and I would hope to be able to do it for another 3 years. And I would hope that the residents of Brighton would give me that opportunity.
Thank you. And Ms. Gilbert.
Okay, I want to thank everybody who's taken the opportunity to participate tonight. It's so important to become involved in the education of our children. In Brighton, we're fortunate to have a school district committed to providing our children with the best possible education in a safe and supportive environment. We have wonderful teachers and administrators who are always striving to maintain and improve the excellence for which Brighton schools are known. Over the past 30 years, in addition to my school board service, I've been actively involved in numerous and varied activities and committees within the school community. My experience has given me a broad perspective and understanding of the needs of our entire community and enabled me to be a valuable board member. I have the experience, perspective, passion, and time to be a productive member of the Brighton Board of Education. I would appreciate your vote and would be honored to continue to represent our community on our school board. Thank you again, and good night.
Thank you. That concludes my responsibilities for this evening, so I will turn it back over to the PTSA.
Thank you. Thank you to all of the candidates, to you, Sherry, and to the audience here and at home. Please remember to vote for the Brighton School District Budget and Board on Election Day, Tuesday, May 16th at Brighton High School from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. The Al Lewis Scholarships Spaghetti Dinner is also on May 16th from 4:30 to 7 o'clock at BHS. The cost is $8 for adults and $5 for children under 10. This event is sponsored by the Kiwanis and raises money for the Al Lewis Memorial Scholarship Fund. Please join us at the next Brighton Central PTSA Central meeting here in this room in Central Office on Wednesday, May 10th at 9:15. Thank you.
This has been a special presentation from the Brighton Central School District Board of Education.